Why have I quit my job? Why have I, bought a van? And why am I going to drive around the country? Well, I'm passionate about the idea that you need to be heard. And I want to stitch these stories together across the states. We're going to find the commonalities, and it's going to be really an amazing experience, and I look forward to you joining me on the Jar. Hey everybody, welcome back to Mental Health Today. One of our first, one of our first live shows in a while. Took a little bit of a break from producing these as I kind of traveled around and parked the van in Denver for the Jar. The show you just saw there, preparing the van. So the van's parked in Denver, taking a little break, still releasing shows every day during the week from some stuff we had in the can, some stuff we had backed up. But the mental health part today is still evolving, still growing. This is a show that really I invested in as you saw in that video, I talked about what are the common things that I'm going to see. And those comments were made before I'd started the journey. And really to see 280 people, to get those interviews done and look at the mental health crisis across the country that I witnessed firsthand, and that I heard these stories and how people have overcome them, and the journeys to, finding their own kind of peace of mind or getting on that road to getting help. And it was really interesting and empowering and, motivational to the point where I decided to start this podcast so I could hear from people in the business, from professionals, as well as people who are in the journey themselves. And even a lot of the professional people, a lot of us have been on our own mental health journey in somewhere, and we all are trying to find, better and better places for our heads and our head space. And today's going to be an interesting interview. Shannon, welcome to Mental Health Today. Thanks for being a guest.
Thanks for having me, Ken.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. So I think one of the interesting things about this show is it's a chance, really, it is a show where people talk about what they do and how they help, in the end, or what they see as the opportunity, Shannon, to get, how do we help address a crisis? What's our personal experience? So it really is all about what you do. And so I think it's a great episode. A great way to start is to really find out, ultimately a little bit of background, but what you're doing today. And, maybe we kind of unwind how you came to this, and then somewhere in there, we'll kind of extract some of the lessons. So maybe you give us a little background, and then what are you doing today?
Okay. Well, I've been a therapist for about 35 years, and I've worked in pretty much every avenue of therapy, from private practice to residential centers, addictions, pretty much the whole gamut. About 5 years ago, I decided that I needed to sort of share what I've learned with a larger audience. And so I started a YouTube channel, and I just looked, and we were 25 subscribers short of 25,000 as of today. So that's kind of cool.
Whoa, really?
Yeah. Yeah. So it kind of took hold, and I thought it was going to be about all types of issues, depression, anxiety, everything. But what happened was mostly people really wanted to understand more about toxic relationships, narcissistic, abusive, and toxic relationships. And so that became more of a focus. And then as time went on, it became pretty much my mission. And what's that one?
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay.
A little bit off there. Not quite all the way down the scroll.
So it's been a really interesting journey. Then about a year and a half ago, I thought, doing 10-minute videos is really not getting the work done. I want to share with people enough strategies to help them actually get well and help them actually get free and then get clear of these toxic relationships. So I wrote a book. It's called Out of the Fog into the Clear, Journaling to Help You Heal from Toxic Relationships. And so I've been, so it's been an interesting journey, and that's pretty much what I'm doing today.
Why was that the topic that got a hold of your audience, or that they attached to for you? What was that?
That's a really good question. I think that Oh boy, our society has really become more and more toxic towards each
Yeah.
other. I think there's always been bad actors.
Mm,
My first job out of grad school 35 years ago was in a domestic violence shelter, and so there's always been people doing bad
mm.
things to people. But I think it's a lot more prevalent now because people are unrooted in their character qualities. I really think that people don't really understand what their sense of self is anymore. They think of it as their likes on Facebook or their likes on
Ah,
Instagram,
yes.
and they think of it as their hair or their fingernails or their bank account or their job. And really, what who we are is what our character qualities are and how we treat other people and our relationships and those sorts of things. And so that's what I wanted to focus on to help people really understand themselves better and be in relationships better. But what I found was that people who have sort of an empathic demeanor tend to tolerate and put up with and not understand that more narcissistic demeanor. And so they're very much at risk of
Ah.
falling in with this sort of person. And then they're just completely baffled and blindsided when they get hit by that
Y
moving train.
when Oh, that resonates so well with me, with the conversations I've had with people who have woken up in this narcissistic. It's like, he's a narcissist. Sure. And it's like, you didn't see that for no. And you're right. They're very empathic people. They really fall into that. And that's a beautiful trap for both parties.
Right. And I actually wrote a couple of the videos that I did early on. One's a narcissist and an empathic person, a tragically perfect match.
I
And
it,
I
I
talk
was just
about
saying
how,
this. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, for the narcissist, it's perfect. You've got somebody who is not all about themselves. They care about other people. They're super empathic. They want you to be happy.
Yes.
Perfect. For the empathic person, they're going to be bankrupted emotionally,
Yes.
spiritually, physically, the whole
For
nine,
even funny one
and even
financially
financially.
somehow. Even
Yeah.
financially somehow. The narcissist is it's I mean, yeah, you gotta give them credit. They really are clean sweepers. Um, Strange behavior. What's the science behind journaling? Because I've never heard anybody say they wish they didn't do journaling. Reading stuff 5 years ago, the power of doing journaling and how it heals. Is there science behind this, and why does this work, or what's your idea?
My feeling about it, and it's the reason it's always worked for me, is it's a way to dialogue with yourself and the different aspects of yourself because we do have different parts of our brain and different parts of our personality that are more or less lost at any one given time. So I talk about this in my book right off the bat that there are two parts of our brain. There's the amygdala, which is in that fight,
Okay.
flight, freeze
Yes.
mode. And then we have our higher cortex, our rational mind. And that is that whole upper part of our brain. But this little walnut sized thing in the middle of our brain, if that is going off in that fight, flight, or freeze, the higher cortex is offline. You might as well pull the plug on the computer, it's gone. And so when people are in this
Oh.
dangerous, scary, anxious place, they say, I feel crazy. I feel like I'm going crazy. They say things like that, or I can't think straight. It's true. So we have to look at the fact that you have this rational mind and you can list off all the things that this person has
Yes.
done and who they are and what they're about and what everybody else thinks. And then you can say, but I still love them. And that's okay. You can make decisions from your rational mind and drag the little amygdala along for the ride. So it
Through
journaling
journaling, yeah.
journaling gives you the opportunity to rationally sort out what's going on and to validate that little amygdala that feels very attached and very upset and very hurt. But you cannot make decisions from that. That's like letting a 5-year-old drive your bus. You just don't do that.
Yeah, like, but it is where you get caught. somehow, right? You end
Right.
up in that kind of 35 years. Holy cow. I mean, that's a I mean, I have to be honest. I've only sat with like a few hundred people for an hour. And like this, I don't think there's no way you can prepare yourself for hearing people's stories. And I've got a mad respect for somebody like yourself because a few hundred stories and I'm PTSD.
Yeah.
Uh, and
Yeah.
and I don't know if I'm empathic or what. I don't even know if that's a thing or not. But I definitely feel other people's emotions. I'm sensitive to other people. I was the youngest of six. I definitely see stuff. I grew up in I think a normal household, where brothers beat each other up and, we ran around and did all that normal. I'm sure I've got a lot of trauma that I don't remember, but it's probably normal, good, healthy trauma, if that's a thing. But I can see where this would be really hard to do
And
this for a long time.
yeah, there's a thing called, oh gosh, compassion fatigue.
Yeah.
And I've definitely been through cycles of borderline burnout at
Yeah.
different times in my life. And that was part of wanting to sort of share with a larger audience as well that
Okay.
you can't do the one on one all the time. I do 2 or 3 days a week, and that's plenty for me anymore. And then my other
Yeah.
time is spent writing and doing the things that I can share that are not sitting in presence with trauma. Because you're right, it's there's also a phrase called oh, what is it? Shoot, it'll pop in my head, but
Yeah.
that we get trauma from sitting with other people's trauma
Is it
and
from this?
vicarious trauma.
Yeah, living. Yeah. Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it is. And if you do have this kind of imagination thing, you are putting yourself into that scenario. Because for me, it's a story.
yeah,
I think the part that's at least professional side is you're evaluating using tools. You've got this tool set, and I would imagine you're sitting there listening to somebody, and you're trying to go through the toolbox and figure out what tool do you need for this situation and how do you help the person. And for me, it's I'm listening to the story, and I'm trying to get into the story and extract the story.
yeah.
So maybe a little bit more dangerous in a way, I, as opposed to judging the swimming strokes from the outside of the pool. I somehow end up in the pool. Is what it feels like. But yeah, it's a really, it's a beautiful thing to let people talk and to hear their stories. And I think the therapy side, that's one of the most beautiful things about it is giving people space and no judgment. And, like that, the technique of holding up this mirror and asking these questions.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think in a way, journaling is doing that for yourself because you're
yes.
giving voice to all this stuff that's going on inside of you, and you're putting it down on paper so that your brain can stop just spinning on it and ruminating on it, but you can look at it and go, "Oh wow, I've been through a lot, and this is really not acceptable, or I really don't like
Yeah.
where this is going." And so you can really embrace a difference when you put it down in a journal. That does kind of, it's your own conversation with you.
Yeah, like I said, so many stories or antidotes within the stories about the journal, people using journaling, and I really had never done it. I mean, I have my own books and I keep notes. But it's not journaling. I use it for to-do lists and other stuff. But I can imagine the journaling. Looking back on it was the most interesting one, where people were saying, "I'm looking back and I'm going, oh, I made it through this. I survived
Yeah.
that. I thought I was in the end of the world, 4 years ago for this thing, and it's like I've been to three end of the world since then. And somehow they survived it. What Tell me more about your YouTube channel. So you started this, and tell us about that journey because that's interesting. Because this is often my experience. It's leading you somewhere else,
Right.
and you're able
Yes.
to share more and help more people through this process.
Right. And it surprised me,
Yeah.
but it was something that I did feel called to. That when you learn a whole bunch of stuff, and then you're just sharing it one person at a time, and this one
Yeah.
person
Yeah.
is going,
Yes.
wow, I wish somebody else had told me this years ago or whatever.
Yes.
When you have that experience over and over again, and you want to kind of share it with more people. So so starting to do that, it was kind of anxiety provoking, and
I
my videos are not professionally edited or anything. They're just raw footage of me talking about different mental health issues. But yeah, and then I started doing live streams every other week
okay.
for people to ask questions, and that was really powerful too, because people were coming in from all around the world, from literally Russia and Serbia and um, you know, the Middle East and the UK, and of course all across the country. But it was mind blowing to me that that people universally are really struggling with these issues and need help, and are hungry for it enough to look up on YouTube. So there you go.
And they found you,
Hmm.
and you were consistent every week, just kind of for a while. Tell us about your strat. Did you have a strategy, or was this just I'll start and see what happens?
I had a strategy, and I was 3 days a week, 3 times a week for the first
What?
year or maybe 2 years. I was
Okay,
very
wow,
consistent, very hard work.
that's
Um,
hard.
and then, it popped and started to do well and
Okay.
that sort of thing. And then I was like, "Ugh, I'm tired." And I kind of have to take care of all my other stuff, because it's not like I'm making money off of that.
Right.
So, I had to kind of do that. And then writing the book took a lot of time. And so it's been, I have to say, a little hot and cold. But what's funny is once people kind of start watching your stuff, it's evergreen. And so it's always there. So,
Yes.
people are still watching and asking questions. And I do always answer people's questions, but I am not as consistent as I should be over the last 6 months with my every other week live streams or putting out new content or anything like that. But it's hard.
I,
It's busy.
yeah, I like what you've done though, and I think more people can do this, which is when you have some credibility. You've done something. You've done this for 35 years. You've seen a lot. You've learned a lot, and to be able to share that now is powerful.
Yeah.
And we have the platforms to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have the platforms. Tell me about the book. So the book came after the show. You just
Right.
is after you started the YouTube. You started writing a book. What were you thinking about for the book? What were you?
I wanted
What
to
was it?
create a book that was a self-help book, so that what I'm finding is that there are millions of people all around the world that have no access to mental health therapy. Just plain and simple. It's just not going to
Yes.
be there for them.
No.
We wish it
Yep.
was. It would be awesome, but it's not
It's not.
realistic.
It's not going to happen.
And it's sad and it's awful. And there's a lot, and I don't pretend that buying my book is going to be like having a therapist. I want everybody to get a therapist if they
Hmm.
can. But if you can't, and even a lot of people actually buy the book and use it with their therapist because it has all these journal prompts in it. But
Okay. Good.
with the book, you can walk yourself through a lot of these journal prompts and go from being lost in the fog to figuring out what happened, and then really getting clear and rebuilding your life. And so that was my mission. And yeah, from the feedback I've gotten, that's really what people feel it is helpful for. So that's kind of what it's all about.
That has been one of the kind of the really powerful moments too, where people tell me on their journey when they realize they're in this kind of narcissist relationship when they've been really abused in a way, right? I mean, it's abuse
Yeah. Yeah.
ultimately. And it's a wicked kind of abuse because it's mental and it's very damaging, like you said, to the soul, right? They're bankrupt
Right.
when they finally get out, or when they get to that pain point, or the person's done with them and
Right.
they found somebody else,
Right.
which is also one of the, I'm just saying that's also one of the stories. It's like
Absolutely.
they bankrupt somebody and there's nothing left and they move on to the next person. And
Yep.
that's even got to be the worst, right? Waking up and finding out you've been bankrupt morally, financially, physically, everything, and the person's gone on and they didn't even love you.
Right. Yeah. One of my more recent videos was, Did they ever really love me? I walk it through and I say, they have no ability to love.
Good.
And
Have no
so I'm
ability to
sorry to
love.
say, but they didn't, and that's a painful realization. But it's also helpful to kind of know that it wasn't about you not being lovable. It was about that person being incapable of loving. Because love is a
Mm,
verb. It's not just an ooey gooey feeling, it's a verb. And if somebody doesn't have any empathy, and if they don't care about your emotions or your thoughts or your feelings, they're not loving you. And you don't feel
okay.
loved. You
Yeah,
might get a
definitely.
love bomb here and there when they're trying to
Yes.
manipulate you and suck you back in, but they're not loving. And so I think that even though that's a painful truth, that validating that truth is helpful to someone needing to move on.
I like that. You need to, and that's got to be the first one of the good steps of healing, which is it wasn't about you.
Yeah,
If you can get your head around that, I think.
right.
Do you think people are? I wonder in that case because I talk about love. I wrote a book, and kind of the things that I've examined around love was self love,
Yeah,
and how important that is foundationally to just your relationships in life. And I wonder if a lot of the people who end up with a narcissist haven't got self-love, and they're looking for some of that, and the narcissist knows how to just absolutely butter that bread.
absolutely. And the first set of journal prompts in my book is they're all about how do you talk to yourself inside your own head?
Okay.
Because a
Okay.
lot of people have toxic relationships with themselves,
Yeah.
and if that's the case, you've got to work on that first. Because if you're constantly running yourself down, then when you meet somebody who runs you down, it's like, okay, that's home. And that's not a, you know people say, well, that's comfortable. It's not comfortable, but it's familiar, and it's
Oh.
awful. But if that resonates for you, you've got to clean house first. So we walk through, who told you those things, and who are you really? We talk about character
Mm,
qualities, and what people tell you is the truth about who you are. Because I'm worthless, unlovable, and whatever, all that, those old messages are not truths. They were just lies that you either internalized or someone actually told you
mm,
in the past. So you've got to get rid of the lies and embrace the truths about who you are. And then when you're treating yourself well, that's self love,
yeah.
then you can have good boundaries with other people. Because when you meet somebody or you're in relationship with somebody and they start to run you down, you're like, no, no, you didn't.
Yeah, it's like,
I'm not going to let somebody treat me that way if I don't treat myself that way. Eleanor Roosevelt actually said that no one can insult us unless we participate. And that was such wisdom a million years ago. So
goodness
it's actually
gracious, right?
true. Yeah.
It I just wonder, as you're what are some of the signs? Do you have a warning sign? Like if somebody's listening to this ultimately and they're kind of going, yeah, that might be I should look further. Is there
Yeah, I
any
think
either behavior from the person or your internal conversation? Is there any where your danger you might want to have a deeper go find some of Shannon's videos. What's a litmus test for that?
I think it's really important to keep your own self intact always with everybody, when you're meeting a new person, or if you're assessing this relationship. If you feel like your thoughts, feelings, wants, and needs don't matter in the relationship, then that's toxic by definition, because yourself is not being nurtured on any
Yes.
level. Yourself is not even being acknowledged on any level. And so when yourself is not acknowledged, nurtured, cared about,
Yes.
it's toxic. And I mean that in the most like poisonous, you're going to die kind of way. Emotionally, people feel so dead inside oftentimes when they get out of these relationships, that they don't know what they want, they don't know what they feel or think. And so in a very basic level, if your thoughts, feelings, wants, and needs don't matter, you need to really take a giant step back. Now, sometimes we've set
Okay.
some of that in motion by being people pleasers and
Yes.
placaters, And so if you've done a lot of that in the relationship and you think that maybe some of that you've created, if you start showing up with all your thoughts, feelings, wants, and needs on board, and they go, oh, wow, this is cool, then awesome. But if they go, what, yeah, rah, 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 and they start to get pouty and angry and snarky, then you know that you're not allowed to matter in this relationship, and then you need to move on.
How does that look like at work?
Oh, it's a challenge because again, you could be you're attached to this person for sure, but you also could be trauma bonded, which is kind of a weird phrase. But what that means is that through a series of them love bombing you and then devaluing you and love bombing you and devaluing you, and that cycle has sort of warped your attachment into this place where you are really like survival level attached to this person, where you think that you can't survive without them. And that's a horrible place to be.
It's like an addiction at that point.
Right. And so that's why you've got to separate that wise mind from the amygdala that thinks you're going to die if you leave this person.
If you don't get if I don't get another hit, if I don't get that love bomb,
right.
Maybe I'll get it tonight.
Yeah. And that little breadcrumb that they might throw my way. But if you put yourself in the hands of your rational mind,
yes,
and you make it a good decision and then walk it through, then you can save yourself. And then in the whole end of my book, the whole last 4 or 5 chapters is all about rebuilding. Because you've bankrupted, you've become so bankrupted emotionally, physically, spiritually, financially, maybe. You really have to rebuild. And a lot of people don't give themselves that time. And I've seen people go into a new relationship that's exactly like the old relationship, and that's really tragic. So you have to rebuild and really have a good sense of self and really have a good creepometer on board before you start into another relationship. Because a lot of people say my picker's broke, and you got to fix that picker before you go back out there.
I think it, like you said, it's, you have to build yourself. The picker's not broken. You just haven't healed yourself.
Right.
You're not you haven't found that self-love to where, people do something and you're like, wait a minute, what do you, I was going to ask you that to people. I guess the flip side of going back to it would be those joyous moments for you when you get a letter or you have a client and they've come out of this and they've got a new relationship. I mean, for you, that's got to be just magical, where they enter what looks like, at least from first cut, at least looks like a great relationship. And they come back and they're telling you how things have changed.
Oh yeah, so many stories, and it's very gratifying, and that's where the compassion fatigue is assuaged.
Yeah, out the window, right?
It's just like, this is wonderful. So yeah, I mean, I love my work and I love the people that I've worked with, and it's an amazing process to see people heal, and when people get out of a bad relationship just because of something they saw on one of my videos that kind of gave them that aha moment that changed the way they looked at it. So they weren't, because what happens too is people start to come out of this fog, and then the first thing they say, and this is across the board, they say, how could I have been so stupid to stay so long? And I go, whoa, time out. You stayed because you're a loving, devoted, dedicated, caring, empathic person who believes the best in people and believes people when they say they're going to change. Those are great qualities. Yes, you need to be more careful with whom you share those, but you are not stupid. There is nothing that is more untrue. So we tend to, again, kind of blame ourselves when you can step back and know. And that's part of what my channel is about too. It's safe space for people to say, yeah, I went through that too. Oh my God, you too. Oh my God, so then you don't feel so stupid because millions of people are going through it. and also you can get wisdom from each other and support and care from each other.
This is what I love, the sharing part. And it's what I'm hoping to do with this program, is
Yeah,
is people can find experts in different areas and vertical parts of this mental health um, kind of arena, right? It's so broad.
yeah.
Where I want to watch our time, but I got another question. I'm like, want to know if you've got your theory on
Okay.
what, where are narcissists made? What is the
Mm.
background? Everybody has a story, and I'm seeing, we're a product of our environment. It's not like it's a DNA. You don't come out with blue eyes and a narcissist personality. Maybe you do. Um,
Actually,
is it
actually, it's
that?
a combination.
Oh
Yeah,
my
it's
God, really?
interesting. Yeah, unfortunately, there is
We have a,
some
yeah,
there is
tell me
some
what happens.
evidence. Yeah, there is some evidence that people there is some empathic gene, and some people have more of it or have a healthier one. I'm not a
Yeah,
scientist.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Don't
exactly.
pretend.
Or
But
what's healthy? We don't know.
but some people are more empathic, and some people are more self-centered. Now,
Okay.
then what happens is the environment, right?
Yeah.
And so that really narcissistic kid with parents who, call them out and structure their lives and, you know, really reinforce the need to be empathic, or that empathic kid who we teach boundaries and
Yeah.
teach, wisdom. So those things are really important. And what I find is that there might be some sort of propensity for that, and then it can be indulgent parenting. It
Yes.
can be that there's an empathic and a narcissistic parent couple that the kids have grown up with, and they don't want to align with the
Oh,
loser.
man.
Yeah, they see the empathic person as the one that always loses, and so they align with the more abusive narcissistic person. And I would say that's more often the case than anything else. And so then they watch them, they model after them. When I was in the domestic violence shelter way back, there was a little 2.5-year-old boy, and he had come in with his mother, and he asked for some ice cream, and she said, well, it's just about dinner time, you can have some after dinner. And he went up to her, and he was literally came up to her, the middle of her thigh. He punched her and kicked her, and said, I want ice cream now, you effing bee. And he was 2.5. Like, that's the kind of modeling that you're fighting if a kid has been raised in that kind of environment. That's really, yeah, heart stopping. We were like, oh my gosh.
I mean, also, like, how interesting to go, holy cow, it's that direct.
Starts that early. Yeah, I mean,
I,
he was observing how to get things done with mom, and he was doing that.
and when you don't
So
do what I say, you get violent,
that's right.
and you threaten, and then it always works.
Yeah, horrible. So anyway, yeah, it is nature and nurture.
It is a nature
And
nurture. Okay.
yeah, but I mean, sometimes one of my most watched videos this past 6 or 8 months has been when your son or daughter is a narcissist.
Oh
And
man.
that's
Oh
a really
gosh.
tough one.
That hurts me
Really
just
tough
hearing
one.
that.
I know, it's horrible. And then sometimes people will creep in on my channel and say, well, they created them, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, no, no. And most of the people who are saying will say that my partner was a narcissistic person, and they saw me getting beat up, and now my kids are beating me up emotionally or physically. And so
Oh,
it
that
is
breaks
that
my heart.
dynamic. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I'm sorry. I was just saying that breaks my heart
No,
to hear
yeah.
that. The You're getting those comments in the channel, which tells you how widespread that is, right? I mean, that's a real thing.
Yeah, it's really widespread. So,
Oof, that's tough stuff. But a great. What's the next book, or what's the next plan for writing? What are you working on now? Because I mean, you already put 35 years into the YouTube. That was a crazy idea. That
That
led you
was.
to that was a crazy idea, and look what happened. And that led you to a book, and that led you to talk about it. What's cooking in your head now?
I might do some sort of group coaching type of thing so that I can help more people, but not in a one-to-one kind of a way, because I
Yes.
don't have any space in my private one-to-one practice,
Yeah.
but a group coaching kind of a thing where people could get more attention and more of
Mm.
their needs met, and maybe walk through the book with me. That kind of thing. I don't know. It's just brewing right now on the back burners.
Yeah, one of the really interesting things is teaching. I don't know how you quite did the YouTube videos and stuff, but now there are some learning. You turn the book into an actual learning book
Right.
and online, so people can walk, like you said, walk through it.
Right.
I love group therapy idea. I interviewed a team on here, and I think it's called June, Joon,
Hmm.
and it's an online group therapy, kind of a better help
Oh,
setup,
okay.
but it's group, and they have a therapist in there, and so you can join in. And they had topics, different kinds of topics, and they've pivoted a couple of times since I interviewed them, and they're now focused on teens,
Huh.
which I
I've
thought
never heard of that.
is a great. I thought it was a great pivot. Now I don't know how
Yeah.
you do it legally because you've got kids joining on a group call, but there's a therapist on there, and it's by theme. So you could be talking about narcissistic parents. Join this
Yeah.
group chat.
Yeah.
At 11 p.m. tonight, we have dealing with friends with addiction.
Yeah.
And so there's these different kind of topics you can go and sit and listen.
Oh, what a
And
neat
I like
idea.
Yeah, and I like it because the level of participation is really up to you. You could probably turn your camera off and just listen,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
you could jump up on stage and be asking the questions and sharing quite vocally with the group.
Yeah.
And I think with the teenage, I think online with teenagers, this is a really great place to provide some help. So thought it was cool.
That is cool.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I got to follow up with that. I got to keep track of them. I haven't gone back and seen what they're up to, but I did see these marketing pivots over time, and I
Yeah.
thought, oh, very clever.
Yeah.
They were going after corporate for a while, and that seems like a pushing a big heavy rock up a hill. And the teen part just seemed to me like, oh my goodness, right up teens alley, right?
Yeah.
Very needed. We need it, and teens would probably be very open to not sitting on a couch with some old person, right? But
Yeah.
you know, but sitting on an online chat with 12 other teenagers and some old person, running monitoring the conversation.
All right.
Shannon, awesome chat. Any other, how to, I think we had how to find you. Let me put that back up, how people can find you. How about your book? It's on Amazon. Maybe give us a title one more time.
Yeah. So nofoggydays.com is my website and landing page, and that has my book link on Amazon. Out of the fog into the
Okay.
clear, journaling
Love
to
it.
help you heal from toxic relationships. And the website has my YouTube
Okay.
and LinkedIn and all the other stuff.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Shannon, thanks so much. This episode will go live when we finish, or it'll
Okay.
go into the archives of these ginormous platforms, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And then in a couple weeks, we will get it out on all the regular audio platforms as well. So you'll be able to
Awesome.
find that, and we'll come in. We'll give you a little bit of a note, and I just want to thank you for being part of this fabric, this kind of giant quilt that we're building.
Well,
A lot
thank
of
you for
fun.
having me. It's been a lot of fun, Ken.
Yeah, it's great. I'm going to look forward to. I want to get on your YouTube, so you've got 24 more subscribers to 25,000.
We're gonna get there really quickly.
Oh, you're going to get there. I'll find you a little bit later.
All
Hang
right.
on. I'll see you in a minute. I'm going to show like a little more commercial, and I'll see you on the other side.
Sounds good.
Yeah, loose, baby.
But we're about to go in
make this vessel with these great professionals at Public Glass. We're not part of the community, but we're from the outer family of glass blowing. Yeah, we're gonna go make a magical giant jar with optic lenses so that if you turn it, it changes all the time. So if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.